Gali eno atogamba tebyasobaganye dda. General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni buli olukya n'agambye nti ebyo byongera okucankalana era byongera okufa. President Kyagulanyi ono si musajja mwangu. Tumulaba ku linnya Nnyonyi kugenda Mbazungu eyo batabbira naye munne ebyabagamba babiwulira era byabagamba babituukiriza. Kati nno batandise okuluma, batandikidde ddala okuluma kuba kati n'agaliwo eddembe ly'omuntu eyisusse okutobolebwa mu ggwanga Uganda. General Museveni ekintu kyongedde okumulya. Era kati agajja galaga nti essaawa yonna General Museveni ebintu bigenda kwefuula, bigenda kumwefuulira era bw'owulira nga bagambye nti bamukwate bamuteeke mabushu bamuteekeko mpingu teweebuuza nate nga byanguye President Kyagulanyi mulimu agukoledde ddala era kati agaliwo General Museveni atandise kufeesa afenyereketa kati ayebuuza wanaatolokera tannaba kutegeerawo kubanga byo ebintu byamusobaganyeeko dda. Njagala tulabe vidiyo eno n'obwegendereza obw'ekika ekya waggulu. Abazungu boogera General Museveni ebigenda okumuddirirako olw'embeera gy'atuusizza ku bannayuganda, olw'ebikolobero byakoze ku bannayuganda, olw'okulwana olutalo sinziggu President Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine lwamutaddeko olukambwe olutali lwangu ng'alabisizza abazungu bonna obubondo obukiriki obadde bukozesa Museveni obadde bumupokera omusimbi ati bonna batya okumuteekamu ensimbi. Kitegeeza General Museveni mwavulu nkupe lukyolo era ebiri e Uganda okwekalakaasa kw'abasuubuzi tobiyita omuniino. Si General Museveni takyalina nsimbi kati ensimbi abbanzibe ku basuubuzi abbanzibe ku basuubuzi okuyimirizawo gavumenti kubanga yamanyira obulamu obulungi bwabaddemu nga bba omudidi nga bamuwana bba kakati tegukyajja akyayagala okusigalamu obulamu kati yeddinaayo gyalimu ngena ayonoona bizinensi z'abasuubuzi takimanyi bwe zigwa ne ziggwawo ajja kuba takyafunira ddala gwe just watch the space. Kyagulanyi amukutte wasinga okuluma. Akatambi kaakano abazungu ng'ebigambo babyogamba.
Because of time constraints, I'm going to fly through these a little bit, hitting the points that I think are of most value a little harder. Please look through my slides at another time. I'll make sure that we find a way to make those available. So yeah, let's get moving. As I was going through trying to decide exactly how I wanted to teach collective action, it's such a broad topic. I thought I would bring it to the very nuts and bolts, the very essential little pieces that if you don't have them, your collective action will not work. So while there will be many other times to learn more about collective action, how to organize and create those events, what we're going to focus on today is more how to build your base, how to be a leader that people will follow, things of this nature. So next slide, please, David. Okay, so you have a vision for what you want to accomplish and you want to do it collectively because you are a servant leader. So to get to that point, we need to know the difference between a social movement, a collective action, and a revolution. All three are together. All revolutions are social movements, but not all social movements are revolutions. So there is a bit of a difference there. So with a social movement, that's generally anybody getting together and doing a communal thing. More than 4 people getting together is a social movement, something that multiple people have agreed on fixing or working on or building. Any of that is a social movement. A collective action is based more around community. So this is bigger, this is more people, but this can be just about anything. Social movement is usually based around a need that is not being met or a common goal, where a collective action is 100% based around a common goal or the social movements or the moving of a common goal. It's all a common goal. Okay, and then we've got revolution. Revolution is the act that comes last. That is the thing that it's your last recourse, but we do get to the point where taking our social movement and our collective action to a degree that will cause possible harm. And I say that in the broadest sense possible. I don't mean revolution doesn't even have to spill blood or anything, but it is inherently something that is pulling apart something else. So there will be harm. Okay. Next, so that's why the hard choices is on there, because that's when those hard choices come into play. All right, slide 3, please, Professor. Okay, so to make a base, because you cannot have any of those 3 things without a base. Your base is the people who share your idea and who are likely to join. The problem with that was summed up by a philosopher named David Hume, who pointed out the problem in 1740 when he said a treatise of human nature that although 2 neighbors may agree to drain a common meadow, to have 1,000 neighbors agree on such a project becomes too complex a matter to execute. So next slide, please. What Hume is saying there is it's easy to get your neighbor to agree to an idea because you kind of know each other. There's only 2 of you. You can kind of, balance. But to get 1,000 people to come together for the same purpose, that's next to impossible, but it's not impossible. So I'm going to show you a couple of tactics you can use or things that you can do to help with that. So next slide. This is my favorite picture of David Hume. I just really like the hat. Anyway, so Hume's critique of collection action, he was critiquing it, but he was still an advocate for trying. He may have said it's almost impossible or extremely impossible, but it's always worth it to try. It's more about understanding the mountain that we're climbing than it is about giving up or trying to dampen what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay, next one. I just like that picture. So, David, thank you, sir. All right, so this is vital. Everyone needs to unify under the same idea. This is where our base comes into play. Again, our base is the people who will, who are brothers and sisters in a cause. That's our base. People who are likely to join, people who are likely to come to an event, people who are likely to support in some small way is our base. So you have an idea and you wish to use collective action to solve it, but you have to unify your base. Unifying your base means that you've got 1,000 people, like Hume said, and you've got to figure out a way to get all of them pointing in the same direction. And this is super difficult because every human is very different. And the reasons one person is supporting you might be completely different than a reason another person's supporting you. And you cannot alienate either. So to get everybody on board, you must define your main idea in the simplest way possible. So if your idea is all over the place and you're like, I want to build a park, but when we build a park, we'll put in a putting green. Then if we put in a putting green, then we'll do this, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do this, and then that is too much. A person is not willing to focus in on a project if it's something that they can't support all the way through. That's the difference here. So when you have an idea, make it simple and easy to communicate. So let's say that my idea is to put in a park, but I've decided that I need to use collective action to do that. I need to go and get signatures. I need to do all these things. I'm not going to sit there and give them a long list of reasons they should join. What I'm going to do is say, this is the idea. I would like to build a park right there. And I cannot wait to hear what you think about that. So I stated my idea, and then I included them in the conversation. Including in the conversation is the next step. You must make people feel that the idea is something they believe in. In fact, it must be something they believe in. Don't make people feel anything. Let them feel their own feelings. Let them feel how they do about a project. But most importantly, and I'm going to say this 1,000 times, make them feel heard. Validate them. Make them feel part of the project. If you take all of these things and you just take it on and it's all about you and you go and you accomplish everything, but nobody's behind you because they don't feel like they're part of it. It's so important to make sure that those people who are supporting us, our base, knows that they are part of it. Okay, so again, know that we've got an uphill battle. It's difficult to get people to agree on anything. Have a very simple phrasing and make sure that everyone is involved in the conversation. Okay, next slide, please, David.
Teacher Katie, before we go to the next slide, I want to emphasize this, unifying the many and a single idea. Many of our students, many of our comrades, many of our revolutionary delegates have so many ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But if all these many ideas are all over the place, and nothing is gonna hold the base.
Yeah.
For example, if I am tired of bad road infrastructure, bad roads all over the country, and I don't unify the base why bad roads are bad, let us go out and protest against these bad roads so that the government can come to its knees to understand why bad roads are affecting our economy. Students can't go to school, vehicles can't go through with import and export. It's really bad. And then unanimously, you all agree to that cause. And then you do perform ways of how to go about that idea. And then once that's completed, then you move to the next. If you feel bread is so expensive and you are tired of higher taxes, you unify the base and a single umbrella and find a collective action. And if you allow everyone to talk, you'll spend a whole entire day having not had a solution. So when you unify your base under a collective, simple, similar, singular idea, then that will impact the rest to be united into larger groups. And so this helps to formulate. When Nelson Mandela got sick of apartheid, he had a one unifying idea under one single umbrella to gather his people, to motivate them, to have a desire for a change, that this was enough. We have gotten to the point where our country is going to the lions, and then we have to do something. And so the base understood what the idea was. And so they moved with that. And so many revolutionaries have a one single idea under one umbrella. But again, students, there is always that metaphor where there is a wolf hidden in the sheep's clothing that won't buy the idea, that will bring the excuse, that will hamper the progress of that one idea to move forward. But collectively, again, we are in a pursuit of the greater collectiveness that helps us to motivate others to move with the idea, of which that single idea will bring great success to move the revolution forward.
Yes, David, thank you so much. I'm really grateful, especially for the example of Nelson Mandela. He was a master at unifying people. Now, keeping in mind, we're going to blow past the Rotary Club. That was just an example. So with all of that in mind, I want you to really be thinking about the phrase, don't give up what you want most for what you want now. And I say this constantly because I find that people get hung up on these little teeny tiny details that in the long run aren't going to matter. And so when you find yourself struggling with little tiny details or thinking that the things that you believe in are getting in the way of the goal you want to get to, I want you to think, is this going to matter in a day? And then I want you to think, is this going to matter in 2 days? Is this going to matter in a week? Is this going to matter in a year? Because if it doesn't matter in a year, it's not worth fighting over right now, especially with what we're trying to accomplish. So as you're trying to figure out a way to unify your base, that means that while you may have very strong ideals and ideas about the things that you want to bring to pass, but they may not be shared with a collective group. Pick your ideas, the things you want to unify people with, carefully. Roads is perfect. Everybody can unify behind roads. And what's even better about that one is after you have a collective action, you can have somebody who maybe was really good at organizing the collective action, put them in charge of roads. Make them part of the movement. And then you can say, okay, we are continuing our collective action to get these roads fixed. But we're also going to move into, we need less taxes. And I'm going to head that up, and we're going to have this person head this other portion up. So this is the contact for both of us. Let's keep moving forward. But first, you must gain their trust. And roads is a great one. I mean, Ugandan roads are horrible. We got to do something about that. I actually was thinking about getting a scraper tractor and just fixing some of them. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway. Back to what we were talking about. So with these movements, it's really important not to be scattered to four winds. Really focus in what is the most important. Really find what the meat and potatoes is to the thing that you want to accomplish, and then do your best to unify under that one umbrella. You'll find most people will want to unify, but it's scary to follow a leader. It's scary to decide that because no matter who you are, no matter what kind of person you are, if you decide that you're becoming a part of something, it becomes part of you. So you're not just selling an idea, you are selling yourself as somebody worth sharing their life with. So keep that in mind. Even with millions of people, if they choose to follow you, you are becoming part of them. Never take this for granted. That is the way to stay a servant leader, because it's super easy to get corrupt once you have power. Super easy. This is not news to anyone. And the way to prevent corruption, it's not necessarily strength of character. I mean, Samson and Delilah. Samson was a good man, and he had good character, but still, it's just, you have to understand the nature of power. And so the way to prevent and preserve your character as a leader is to always remember that those people they are part of you and you are part of them forever. Because as long as they follow you, you are part of them. Keep that in mind always. Okay. Now, this is just more or less more on that you're never going to find anybody who's exactly like you. So make sure that you have really, really, really specific and yet a little bit open to interpretation goals. If you say, I want to fix the roads, everyone can get behind that. Simple, easy idea. Now, how we do it might be difficult for other people to rally behind. So just let that be for now until we get a base, and then include them in the decision-making process. But first, build that base. Say, I want to fix the roads. End of statement. Okay, next slide, please. Let's see where we're at. All right, now we're going to be starting to spread our message. So we have our collective action idea. We have an idea for unification. So we have our idea that's going to unify everybody. Now it's time to get it out there. And a lot of people think that it's about emails and flyers and speeches and all that good stuff, all good stuff. But spreading your message is so much more about selling yourself than it is anything else. Yes, spread flyers. Yes, yes, give out emails. Yes, do these things. But the most important thing you can do is meet with people, look them in the eye and give them a handshake. Let them know how human you are. You do not want a mystique of mystery. You want them to feel confident and cared for. So to that end, we're going to talk about how to give an authentic speech. So next slide, please, David. So, rules to selling yourself. This can be used for good or evil, so keep that in mind. Again, it's about strength of character here. But if you can speak with another human being and be authentic, never ever saying something you don't mean or make up something, that's never a good idea. If you don't know the answer to a question, say, I don't know. Just do not make something up. And that leads right into being truthful. If truth no longer matters, then everything is suspect, and whoever has the most money can buy the loudest voice. Truth always matters. Always. Period. So it's worth fighting for. That's one of those things where it is worth fighting for. And while some people are going to throw stones and slander your name, all that stuff, that's fine. I know that sounds terrible, but you know who you are. You don't need people who are looking to tear you down. You don't need to let them decide who you are or how the world sees you. They can put tons of stuff out there, just insane amount of stuff, and people will believe them. But by your works, they will know you. Show them who you are. Don't take the bait with those people who will slander you. Just let them be. There's nothing we can do about it. And as long as you know what they're saying is untrue, and as long as when people ask, you tell the truth, it'll go by. It might hurt. It might take some people, but it'll go by. And it's not worth sacrificing your character for. All right. Be flexible and understanding, but firm in conviction. This is the trick when you have your idea is firm and set. You're okay. I got that backwards. Okay, so you have your idea. Be flexible in how it's going to move. The river that your idea is flowing on is going to go all over the place. It's going to keep the idea consistent, but let it move. Find new avenues. Don't be stuck in one way to solve a problem. There's billions of ways to solve a problem. But once you do choose the direction, be firm with it. Because it's easy to be like, okay, we're going to fix the road. So we're going to buy a tractor and we're going to do it ourselves. But then like next week, legislation comes out that says that they're going to fix the roads or they're going to do it themselves. Is it still wise for us to continue down that track? No. But if somebody else just has another idea or another idea or another idea and we just get bogged down in the ideas, then nothing ever happens. So it's like when I make a big dinner for my whole family, I can either make 1,000,000 dishes, okay, or I can make 4 really good dishes. So I always opt for the 4 really good dishes instead of the millions of okay dishes. I hope that kind of makes sense. It's instead of putting all your eggs in a bunch of little baskets and doing them all okay, find your big, good, solid baskets and be consistent. I hope that that's understood. All right. Never speak with anger, ever. Speak with passion. Anger will move people. Anger is the easiest way to move people. Everybody feels angry, and when they feel threatened, they will move. Anger moves people, but it moves them off a cliff. Do not speak with anger. You cannot control what happens later after you've moved a group of people through anger. You cannot control what happens. And that kind of a thing, you can't control most things, but if I've learned anything through the last couple of years in the US, it is that anger is the easiest way to move weak people. And we want the strong. We want the passionate. We want the people who really, truly, and honestly want those things that we want. We want our base to be full of strong, capable people, not people who can just be moved by anger. Speak with passion. All right. And then only ask for what you need. Never take advantage of anyone. Only ever ask for what you need. Do not look at a person and think to yourself, hey, this person is a means to an end. I'm going to say that again. This person is a means to an end. That means that they have something that can help you achieve a goal. Never treat another human like this. They are more than means to an end. They are more than ways to get your goal. They are humans who are entitled to respect, honor, and love. Do not treat anyone as a means to an end. Now, that being said, everything I say, everything, this is direction. This is not gospel. Everybody's situations are different. Everybody needs to use these tools in ways that work in situations that are all over the place. These are just guidelines. So please, as we continue going through these things, while this is my, it's been my experience that these things work extremely well. I am not you, and I'm not having your experiences. So adapt them to your life and your leadership positions. Okay, next.
Teacher Katie, before we proceed, I really want to hammer our students this, and I forgot to make an announcement at the beginning of our lecture. As students, I expect you to have a piece of paper and a pen and write down these key important things, because you as leaders, you as activists, you as advocates for human rights, for change in our country, whatever your capacity, you as a servant leader out there, please remember to be authentic, like Teacher Katie has taught us this morning, because if you aren't, then everything that you say is not going to mean anything. Don't say something that you are not willing to keep all the way to the end. And students, if the truth doesn't matter to you anymore, guess what? Corrupt readers are going to buy you, are going to buy your soul, and you are going to compromise your own soul. And before you know it, you will be gone by the wind. I challenge you to keep these 5 philosophical ideals, you as a leader. And if you have a leader that you are following, look at these 5 segments and see which of these 5 segments is the leader we are following possesses. I'll be honest with you. The president that I'm following, who is my leader, who is my hero, is President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. In all of these segments that we are teaching you this morning, I'm saying these 5 bold points that he possesses. He's authentic. He's flexible in understanding the circumstances in his convictions. When he's addressing us, when he's speaking to us, he speaks with passion that reveals to who he is. And only he asks what we need, never ever taking advantage of others. In other words, what I'm teaching you today to understand is these 5 philosophical ideals are greatest in the minds of great philosophers. Because if you are not true to what you stand for, we have seen even our good-minded leaders being bought off with small peanuts spreading, and slowly it's caught up with them, and the hand is caught in the burning pot. And so, students, what we are just saying is be authentic and stand up for truth. Be truthful and let it be known. Be flexible and make others understand where you stand, even if it means death. Never speak with anger, but speak with feelings and passion that will leave and make everyone in the room say, that was the greatest conversation of our time. And never take advantage of others. And so, colleagues, we have 4 more minutes left. We'll turn the time over to Dorcas. We're going to pause here and then go into the moment of silence, and then we'll get back to Teacher Katie to finish up us with the lesson. Dorcas, we turn the time over to you for our moment of silence preparation. Take it over.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Fault. I will do everything I can to a fault. I will do everything and speaking with kindness. It also means speaking with strength. You can be kind and strong. This is my strength. This is the thing that I've been able to hone throughout my life as a leader, as a teacher, as a mother, as a politician. This is the most important way to show strength, through kindness. Because so many leaders, so many bad leaders think a kind person or somebody who doesn't yell and scream is weak. They confuse anger with strength. They confuse narcissism or self-identity with strength. This is not strength. This is weakness, if anything. If you can't come up with a good argument and all you have is threats and anger, you are a weak leader and you have nothing. Okay, so make sure you're speaking often and with those same principles. David, next. Thank you, sir. Oh, and we're back to a handshake. Okay, I am a servant leader to a fault. I will do everything I can to make sure each and every person in my umbrella, in my base, feels wanted, needed, and appreciated. And so far, that has been very effective. Never underestimate looking somebody in the eye with a smile on your face. And it can be a little unnerving when you're speaking to somebody that may not agree with you, but you'd be absolutely floored by how many times I've met with somebody who disagrees with me with a smile and a handshake and a kind word and have become friends with them. Our ideals stayed different, but our respect for each other changed. And that is gold. It is gold to be able to see the humanity in those that we disagree with. However, sometimes those we disagree with do not deserve it, and that's okay too. Every bit of this comes with a modicum of grace. I'm just giving you the benefit of my experience, which is going to be different than yours. So when you meet somebody new, when you're rallying that base, smile and be authentic with the smile. Do not give them a... Everybody knows when it's a fake smile. You have to honestly be excited to see them. You need to look them in the eye and then ask about them. Start any conversation with, I'm going to tell you everything about me, and this is our goal, and we're going to get there. And nobody's interested at that point. Humans are weird. We like people to show interest in us before we tell them what our interests are. And if you can master that, the world is going to be your oyster. Ask them about themselves. Tell them, don't just start with, oh, and how are you today? That's fine, but start with something you notice about them. Shake their hand, smile, and say, I'm so glad to meet you. Oh my goodness, that's a great haircut. Who did your hair? I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds small, but you connect so quickly with people if you show real interest in them. Real interest, especially if you're a leader already, to tell somebody that they look nice and mean it as a leader, they will fall in love with you as a leader. And that is dangerous. So make sure you know what you're doing when you do it. Okay? It is so much more difficult to break between a leader who you love than it is to break ranks with a leader who scared you into it. Love is far more powerful. All right, then laugh easily. Show them that you enjoy your life, and that's the life you want other people to have too. Being serious and making people feel stupid, that's just going to drive them away. And I mean, what's more important, being right or making a new friend or building your base? Especially when it comes to little things that really don't matter. Now, I'm not saying lie or don't stand up for truth or any of that. What I'm saying is if somebody says that they think that this crystal has the body of their aunt in it, maybe just be okay with it. even if that's not something you believe. It's their journey. It's their life. It doesn't matter. We don't need to pick anyone apart or make them feel stupid. Be sincere. Make sure that, again, everything you say is something you can back up. Listen to them. Show that you're listening by repeating some of the words they say back to them. This is an excellent way to show active listening. Comment on their points. So when they make a point, even if it's a point you don't agree with, comment on it, but authentically comment on it and do not attack it. So if somebody says, I think the roads in Uganda are great, and say, that's interesting. I guess you just, or that's interesting. So what about the roads in Uganda do you think are great? And then let them talk. And oddly enough, they will usually talk themselves out of it. And let them do it. It's great. So, and then validate them. When they're talking themselves out of it, they'll be like, well, I guess they're a little bit bumpy, aren't they? And like, I don't know, maybe, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, especially that one in that intersection. That's pretty bad. And go, oh yeah, that is a bad intersection. See, the validation makes them get to the end of the journey on their own. And then they will feel loved. Compliment them. It's always nice to get a compliment, but be genuine. Don't just tell everybody they have nice hair. And always be truthful yet again. All right, next slide.
Katie, before we move to the next slide, I wanted to point out something that you've said, you know, that the power of a handshake and looking someone in the eye. I remember an example. I was on a flight from Amsterdam to Germany, Munich, and I was seated on the next row on the window was a student from Uganda that was going to German University of Munich to study petroleum. And I asked him, so what's your name? He told me he was, and I told him, how long is your course? He said it was 3 years, but to cut the long story short, I asked him, oh, wow, that's very good. How did you get the scholarship to go study? It was through my dad. I said, okay. So I asked, what do you think of Uganda? It's so beautiful. The economy has grown. The education is wonderful and great. And that's interesting. Like you said, I asked, that's interesting. But deep down, I knew this was a kid that has been born with a silver spoon in the mouth. What more could he say than a government that has benefited his father and him and getting a free scholarship from State House to go to German Munich to study petroleum? So we see this, but I looked into his eye, and deep down he knew that I was doubtful of what he was saying, sugarcoating things in a nutshell to favor him and his lifestyle on a free scholarship. So pretty much we look at people, we smile, we validate their presence, and we be sincere. And at the end, I told him, well, I don't believe everything you told me. And he says, yes, I knew you wouldn't agree with me. And so with what you've said, we definitely have to be sincere and validate and comment on the points that we agree, and then point on things that we agree to disagree, and then we move on. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
Hey, I really appreciate that story. That's very, very accurate. And just so we're covering our bases, I did see that looking someone in the eye is rude in certain cultures, in which case, please adapt this to the cultural equivalent. I'm just using what works in my culture, but there is a cultural equivalent to things like this. Like I know that in some cultures, it's more respectful to, you know, show your respect visually, in which case do that. That's great. Do whatever happens culturally that is going to show the respect that you are genuinely portraying and show the validation to the people you are speaking to. And with that in mind, always know what the cultural norms are, because that's, if you show them that you tried, like when I go to Uganda and I try to speak Lugandan and I butcher it, I'm still appreciated because the effort was made. And that's good, I think. So at least I'm going to pretend like it's good and nobody correct me because I don't want to know. But okay, So now we've got our base, and now we're going to get organized. And I can't touch on this for very long. I'm hoping to be able to teach you a whole nother seminar about just the organization practices in developing a seminar, but I'm going to hit these bullet points really quick. So first, what you need to do is gather together your base, find out where your assets are. So the people in your base might be willing to do certain things for you. Find out what those assets are, and then come up with, let's say that you want to have a march, or you want to have what's it called? You want to go to a park and speak to everybody. Okay, big thing. And if that's the case, you need somebody who's really good at writing things like permits so that you can get a permit for the park so that you can do it legally. Because the difference between a tyrant and somebody who's a good leader is we work within the bounds of the laws and the constitutions that were put in place until we can't. I mean, it's different for everyone, but if you're willing to break the laws to get what you want, you're no better than the people we're trying to overthrow. They're just, they keep breaking laws, changing constitution, amending things to suit their own needs. If we start doing that, we're just as bad as they are. So figure out who's got your assets. To figure out who's a good speaker, who can be your headliner for the meeting, who is really good at putting up sound equipment. Find somebody who maybe has sound equipment so it can cut down on your costs. Find those assets. Then you divvy up and delegate who's going to do what, and then trust that it'll get done. No micromanaging here. Trust that it'll get done. If it doesn't get done, help them achieve it, but assume everything's going to get done at the beginning, and something always falls apart, and be okay with that. Don't think everything's gone completely awry if something goes wrong. Something always goes wrong. That's just the nature of it. We just hope it's a small thing that goes wrong. Then, yeah, we're delegating responsibilities. We're going to plan the actual event. That means you're going to make a schedule. You're going to stick to the schedule, timings, etc. Because when you are dealing with a big community thing, like a walkout or a strike or anything of that nature, you have got to be on time. And it has to be in the time frame you say, because you have thousands of people joining together to make this work. And if you're not on time, you are showing disrespect of their time. And I get the irony here because I was late, but I'm hoping there's a modicum of grace there. All right, then we are going to get the message out so people are aware that it's happening. Get on TV, get on radio, get on YouTube, all that good stuff. Do a TikTok, whatever it is that the best way to get your message that your event is happening out. And then make sure all your ducks are in a row the day before, and then do everything according to the law. Do not have vendors if vendors are not zoned for the area. Do not have porta potties unless you have to. I mean, make sure you're following every single rule. Because the better you follow the rules, the more people honestly will trust you. All right, next. And now we're going to get into delegation. I feel so bad. We're getting super late. But again, this is just an overview about making sure you're delegating responsibilities to people who, one, want it. Try not to delegate things to people who don't want to do it. Delegate to people who have the time to do it. Don't be delegating big things to somebody who has a job that requires a lot of effort. We want these people to be excited to work with us, but not feel like they have to quit their entire life to work with us. And so it's kind of a delicate balance. You want them to feel a part of it, but you don't want them to feel like it's taking over their lives. So you got to be careful with your delegation. All right, next. Again, transparency and everything transparency. All right. So then we have planned the event. I talked a bit about permits. We can go to the next one, making sure that we're never devolving into violence if we can help it, because violence is kind of the mark of a poor leader. It's the mark of somebody who instigated these things through fear as opposed to passion. That being said, violence does happen. I mean, and sometimes it happens justly. There's always exceptions to every rule. But if you will look at the difference between Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolence approach and Malcolm X's violence approach in his earlier years, you will see that Martin Luther King Jr. was far more effective, but Malcolm X sure made people feel better faster because he worked through fear, and fear feels good when it gets rectified. And so what kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody who's basically giving people feel good moments? Or do you want to be somebody who's a leader? Because, yeah. So a good leader never lets things devolve into violence. But a good leader also recognizes that sometimes change necessitates a big upset. So again, nothing set in stone. Amend it to your own experiences. All right, so quick rundown. You built your idea, you built your base, you got organized, you delegated, and you planned your event. This is how you generally can do any kind of civil action. And this, as long as we're obeying whatever the laws of the land are in that region, this is how you go about doing it. Make sure you're selling yourself, but you're selling yourself authentically. Do not be selling a version of yourself. And keep in mind, when you choose to be a leader, you are now a servant to the people. You don't get privacy anymore. You don't get anything like that anymore. If this is the path you're going, you have got to constantly be making sure that everybody around you understands where you are. You have to know that every skeleton in your closet, every bad thing you've ever done is now public knowledge. Every time you make a mistake, it's going to be out there. It's going to be public knowledge. So if you have issues with pride, this is not the job for you. You have to be okay when people call you names. You have to be okay when people say that you're bad. You have to be okay. Or you're not a leader, you're a child. You're a child who's throwing a tantrum. Adults figure things out with their words. Children yell, scream, and insist that they're right. You can't do it. Be a leader. Don't be a tyrant. Don't be a child who yells and screams and throws a tantrum. Some people aren't going to like you. You have to be okay with that. Some people are going to say lies about you. You have to be okay with that. Some people are going to defame you in a way that is going to make other people hate you. And you have to be okay with that. So to that end, that is why it is so important, why you have to follow those 5 rules. Because nobody's going to follow another human if all of that happens. Nobody is. People are reasonable. People think. People don't want to follow somebody who they see themselves in. They want to see the best version of themselves in their leaders. And it's a big job. And you're going to fail. Everybody does. But then you get back up and you figure out what you learned from that failure. And you decide, okay, this was hard. This hurt. This was worse than I ever thought it could be. But I don't think it can get any worse. And if I can get through this bit, I could probably get through anything at this point. So what do I want? Do I want to be a leader, or do I want to be a flash in the pan and then go about your life? It's up to you. But if you do choose to be a leader, follow these steps and you're going to do a whole lot better. All right, David, I think I'm pretty much finished. I'm terribly sorry it took me so long to get on board, but I do need to give you your little warning, because all of this always comes with a helping of warnings. You need to understand that a collective action can happen even if people believe the same bad idea. For example, slavery in the US was a collective action. A bunch of people decided it was okay, and they collectively wrote laws and made it work so that it would happen. That's a horrible, horrible idea. It was a very, very bad thing, and it's resonating throughout our country to this day. It's a horrible use of collective action. So keep that in mind when you're deciding how you want to utilize these tools, because collective action does not necessarily mean good or morally good. It means people working together. So make sure that when you decide to start these collective actions and these movements, that it is something that is worth fighting for, and that it's something that you're trying to create a better future with. And you want to know something really, really creepy about all of it, though? Those people who believed that slavery was okay, they thought they were creating a better future. So be always on your own case. Always question yourself. Make sure the things that you see as the best option are the best option for everyone. It's no longer about you. It's about the whole community. Okay, that's my warning for the day. Professor David, I did have something I was hoping to give them a little bit of an assignment, but I don't think we have time for it. So I think we'll just have to wait till next time. Okay?
Yeah, I have a question for them that I'm gonna be leaving with them. But Teacher Katie, that was a wonderful, wonderful lesson for our comrades and students that have just joined us. Let me go through what Teacher Katie has taught us briefly. Just a quick summary. She has taught us about collective action with our philosophy of a servant leadership approach from the American leadership class. She talked about how to spread our vision, the social movement, the collective action, and then the revolution, the dynamics, teamwork, the hard choices we make, the unification, clear message, and then pointed about David Hume, who said that we all come from different segments of lives and we may agree to drain a common middle. Talked about, again, our collective approach and to become continually advocates in unifying and a single idea. And then she talked about us, we may look different, we may not be exact, but then we have to have a common cause and a common idea that is collectively helping us to move forward. We have to know our base. We have to speak things in mind and to start speaking them loud and clear. We have to have basic segments of our inner self that speak truth to power for us. She taught us about speaking so often about the changes we are fighting for, changes we are advocating for. And then the power to be authentic as real people, to smile, to speak louder, to be sincere, to compliment, and to always be truthful. And then she spoke to us about accessing and willingness to take responsibility and to delegate responsibility to those that stand out. And hence, delegation and transparency as a way to help us in meeting our ideal and goals. And, she spoke to us about the meaning of proper protest, gathering, community outreach, and making sure that we get things in the right way that we need to. And then to have a rundown, to build our idea, to get organized, to plan our event, to build consensus, the base, the delegation. And then finally, she gave us a warning that, we may convince ourselves that corruption is so good and it adds value to our country, when in reality it's not, but we get convinced by the bad ideals and change books, change constitutions, change laws to fit our moment of the day. But that history will validate us that we were wrong and that our collective action was impurely bad. Finally, we thanked her for this wonderful opportunity. Also, colleagues and comrades, our assignment for this week is, why is collective action important in your struggle for change, and how can it be implemented? Again, the question for the assignment for today's class is, why is collective action important in your struggle for change, and how can it be implemented? So write a one-page analysis paper and then send it to our email. As always, I thank some of you students that have been doing this. The winning students at the end of the class will be announced as we move along. And so let me turn the time over to you students to ask any questions that you may have, and I'll stop the sharing. And I'll want you to ask questions for Teacher Katie. Please put your hand up, be precise, make a comment or ask a question, and we'll be able to willingly work with you through that. Over to you students for question it's a question and answer session now. Put your hand up, and then we will invite you.
Thank you so much, Professor David, and thank you so much, Teacher Katie, for that enlightening lecture of power of collective action, of course, specifically addressing the journey from protest to revolution. Yes, in Uganda, we find ourselves bound by numerous unifying factors, or should I say bases, like Professor David said. And of course, the abduction, the brutality, for me, I think that really is taking a toll on most of us. So I do believe that with that unifying, it is a unifying base in a way for us to, eventually respond. We have to gather and respond to such injustices. So, of course, there should be a unified front. Then, of course, that is emphasizing the power of collective action. I don't know, but yes, I am really so glad this lecture has been so full of power for me. Yes, Comrade Banasula, please do come in, and then we'll take all the hands in one go, and for the sake of time. Yes, Comrade Banasula.
Thank you so much, Comrade Docas, for this opportunity. I want to take a special thanks to Comrade, because she is now a Comrade Katie, into this our revolution. And thank you for your guidance and your thoughts on this revolution that we are in. Sister Katie, we have a question in our mother and Uganda that the people whom we've been fasting in this revolution, they are the ones who are really embarrassing us in a way that they sit on the same table, putting out this share in mining our revolution. As you say, on such a situation, when we come along, some of these people, really our hearts that they will lead to this revolution, and we find them involved in corruption. So that's my question.
Professor David, did you catch all of that? There was some cutting out. Could you rephrase?
Yeah. I think if I hear Comrade Banasula asking, is that in our country we have so many colleagues or so many comrades that implanted under the epitome of fighting for the same cause, when really their ambition and goals are totally different from the ideals of the revolution.
That is an excellent point and an excellent question. It doesn't matter what your revolution is. It doesn't matter what your idea is. You're always going to get people who see an opportunity, which is what they're doing. They see an opportunity so that they can make themselves bigger, make themselves better. It's an opportunist leader, and they're easy to root out. If you look at those 5 things that I told you, then they almost fail immediately. When it's an opportunist leader, even if they've got a lot of ambition and charisma, if you look at them and ask them questions, and if they answer with fear, anger, or anything like that, they're probably in it for themselves. So what you can do is, one, you can say, oh, that's not the kind of leader I want, right to his face, because that's a good time. Or you can just say, that's an interesting approach, my idea, and then give your idea for the future. Take his spot, because opportunistic leaders are going to always be in the spotlight. That's always going to happen. So it's honestly kind of a nice way for you to be able to approach and say, oh, tell me about this. actually, I don't agree with that. And you're right in the limelight, you're right in it. And so that's a great moment for you to use the opportunistic leader to make an opportunity for you. So flip it on them. I am really sad that that's the reality of the situation, but people are looking for hope, and opportunistic leaders don't give it. So if you find somebody who is giving hope, run them through those same criteria, decide if it's someone you want to follow. And away you go. Did that help?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, Brother Godfrey in a few seconds, and then Sister Mimi together.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dorcas and the team, and thanks very much, Katie, for that module. And me, it's not a question, it's rather an appreciation of the point where the unifying idea had to be simple. Many times we've had overcomplication of ideas where we have a common goal of bad governance or human rights abuse, and people tended to bring in, whether by design, to divert us, bring in cultural or religious things like that, which might not entirely unify us, but a simple idea that we have bad governance or human rights, simple but it's corrective, it unifies us all. Thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Teacher Katie, will take Mimi as well. Thanks, Godfrey. We'll take Mimi as well. Then Teacher Katie will get back to us at once. Yes, Sister Mimi, please unmute.
Thank you so much, Teacher Katie, for this awesome lecture. We really appreciate. My question is going to be about, because as we are progressing over time, people join, and eventually, of course, we all have the common goal. But how can we constantly communicate that common goal with all these different people coming on board? Or how do we ensure that that common goal is communicated to all these? How can we coordinate that? I think sometimes we eventually, somehow people get their own ideas as we progress along, but how can we make sure that that common goal is keeping us together as different people join over time?
Okay, well, first I'm going to thank
Jeno Yoweri Kaguta Museveni wetumutusiza wewo kati embeera ya kumusalira magezi wano kumutayiza eno neno okulaba nti asigala bwati mu katu nga takyekyusa tumale tunyigebwe papa tumenyemenye eggwanga lyaffe tulyeze tusobole okulaba Uganda wamagwe enunulwa nga yonna ade bamuwa ensimbi obusuwa busalibwa nga twongera okumulabisa buli katundu konna era nga twongera okumatiza bannayuganda n'okubategeeza ekituufu ekiriwo ekigenda mu maaso era kye tulina okugoberera okulaba nga tutereeza eggwanga lyaffe Uganda. Mbagala nnyo mwenna abaliko mwebali kubaako Omukama Katonda saba bankuumire ankumawo malirize mpola mpola mweraba.